That was a good well, I was kind of like getting emotional because I was like, dang, like
I'm
I've been
sorry.
through the same experience and stuff like that, especially when it comes to food.
Yeah.
And just how you was just talking about how, it all started when you were younger and stuff like that. And I was just like, damn, like food is really addiction and stuff like that, but how it happened and how we suppress so much of our pain. It was a really good I liked it. I really
Thank
did.
you.
You
I
I
really
did.
hope
get emotional.
I
But I feel
really
like you
hope
were
I
very
helped.
brave to get up there and to speak about your childhood and what
Thank
happened
you.
because girl, I would have broke down.
Yeah. I've, it's like, okay, like, I feel like I'm at the point in my healing where I can talk about it. At first, when I first started healing from everything, the trauma from my child, I couldn't talk about it openly because I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth of what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I first started talking about it with my therapist, I just sobbed. I sobbed. I cried and I cried. When I say I was uncontrollably crying for
But you
weeks,
needed that though.
yeah,
That's probably the
weeks,
first time you was able to cry and your inner child was able to
yeah,
cry because you was too busy in a place of trying to protect. And I
yep,
get it. You was
yep,
trying to protect yourself and you didn't have nobody to
yep,
protect and you finally was able to release. Yeah,
yep.
y'all should have been on, I don't know if you was on there, Marcus. It
Oh
was
yeah,
nice.
absolutely. I was definitely
Yeah,
in
he
there.
was there.
Yeah, I
I
was
was I
just
was
like
walking.
she's
I took my walk. I mean, I was in there from the very beginning.
yeah,
Yeah.
she was bold to give her
Yeah.
testimony, and I commend you for also. I could tell you in a place of forgiveness,
Oh
that
yeah.
level of forgiving your parents and stuff like that, because that's a hard journey for me and others and stuff like that. I'm still getting into that place because it's like, but I'm a kid. Like you didn't protect me, and then when you know your parents, yes, they do the best that they can do with what they know
Hmm.
how. But when it's like you know that this is the abuser though, and you're putting me
Right.
back in that same situation, and that
Right.
always used to get to me with my parent. And so I used to just be like, damn, like, but you put me in that
Yeah.
situation. How do I balance
Right.
that with this is the person that hurt me, but you're like a co-contributor to the abuse, you know? But I see that you're in a place of healing, so I commend you.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
shit
I
was
have
it was a
to
good listen.
because
I definitely like I said, I was listening to the whole thing. Like
thank
I
you.
was just walking and I was really now I have one critique.
Okay.
The guy, I feel like he was long winded and
Mm-hmm.
getting to y'all
The
talking about what was
question.
going on with you.
Because he wasn't like you, huh, Marcus?
No,
He
I'm
wasn't
not
like you,
saying
the
it.
host. No, no, no. I'm not saying it like that. You know how you had
Yeah,
the good questions and the points, and you just boom,
Right.
boom, boom,
yeah.
Right.
like that.
I be focused on y'all. Like I'm the host. Like if y'all noticed today when we did the pod, I didn't even say my name
What happened?
when I did the
So
intros.
what happened was is actually I wasn't supposed to be the host. It was supposed to be in his live.
Yeah, that's what I was confused. That's
Yeah,
what I
and he
seen.
couldn't understand how to get his live to work properly. So because we were already 15 minutes behind, I was like, "Hey, I can do it." You know what I mean? Well, let's just go and get it up in mind so at least we're going, you know. So
Right.
that's what happened. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
I
no,
was
no,
supposed
no.
to
I mean,
be
I
a
ain't.
guest and it was supposed to be his thing, but
Oh, he talking about the questions, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm just talking
oh,
about like all right. Once they had it set up right, like now I know he was supposed to host and then you ended up hosting, but then
right,
once you gave him the big box, like once
right,
whoever in the big box to me is usually the host. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So
right,
once he got the big box and y'all was setting every like he was saying what he had to say before he put it to you and his
right,
friends so y'all could do the
right,
interview. I feel
right.
like that part, like
It was
I
too
feel like he
much.
could have shortened it and got straight because it was really about you. Like even
Right,
though he was supposed to be hosting it, it was really about you. So
right.
he could have shortened that and got straight to you, and then it'll flowed a little bit better. Like I felt myself waiting to hear what you had to say when he was talking.
Right. I understand that. Yeah, I get it.
That's
I
why I
hear you.
like Marcus. He built for this. He had natural talent to be a host, and I love it. It's in him. That's his natural gift.
Yeah,
Yep.
I
like
like it.
I'm trying to tell you, I really be trying to get to y'all. Like in all actuality, I totally forgot to say who I was in the intro.
Oh,
I just was so worried
Yeah.
about getting y'all. Like you gotta think I had stopped recording twice to
wow.
start over to get it going. And it
Yeah.
was like by then I would just try and get through the intro so we can just get to the questions.
Yeah,
We'll see.
I didn't realize how many people would see. I'm never quite sure how much of my story I should share because I'm always
All of it.
afraid
I
I'm going to
like it.
trigger people. Because I understand the topic is so sensitive. Whenever you start bringing up traumas, addictions, childhood, I'm
Mm-hmm.
always very conscious of my audience, and I never want to harm somebody. That's my biggest fear is that by me speaking about it, I'll open up a wound, and then do you understand what I'm saying? Like I don't want
Yeah.
to harm people because I know that my story is I probably only shared about a quarter of the trauma that I've been through. And I want to be very conscious of that because not everyone's ready to hear everything, right? And you don't trauma dump on people
Right.
who are not ready. So I tried to keep it, kind of surface level. If I told you guys more, you'd be like, why are you not talking to yourself and in a straitjacket? Literally.
It's only by the grace of God. I really, really liked that. And I liked how you, when you answered the questions, it just seems like you were just so. I just like how you answered it, very professional. You wasn't in your emotions, but yet you were able to still express, exactly what happened and when you went through it. I just, and you could tell you were in your sound mind that you were a different person because when you begin to describe who you was as a child, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's like I was taking that journey with you because I get it. You know what I'm saying? And then when you were like, I was this person, I was that person, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You wouldn't have liked me. You would have this, that, and the third. You can see the transformation. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
I liked it. I did. I
Yeah.
really, really did.
I'm always
Yeah.
very careful about how much I reveal because I feel like if I say the whole story, and it literally needs a warning label, and I would want to put in like
Trigger warning.
self help lines. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and also have like a moderator in there saying if you are feeling triggered, it's okay to leave. Don't
Right. And I,
sit here with these emotions thinking you're trapped and you have to listen to what I'm saying. Leave
yeah,
and
because
go
some
take
people
a
are not
break. Go
ready to
take
deal
care of
with it.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
I
you
don't
got
want
people like
people like
myself who
that.
may want to hear it too because they be like, they never heard nobody else
Right.
tell their story because they may think they're the only one that went through that. You get what I'm saying? So for you
Right.
to say that, it will make them so comfortable to be bold. Like, you know what? I could come forth and I could say that, you know what, Savvy, I too. This happened to me when
Yeah.
I was a little girl, X, Y, and Z. So,
And that's what I mean
I
about
love
having
it.
additional supports. Like, if I do it again, I feel like I'm going to tell him that, hey, because we are covering such a sensitive topic and it might trigger things with people, like, I want someone in the comments to say, hey, if you're feeling this way, reach out, call this, there's a hotline,
Yeah.
something. Because you
Okay.
never know. I'm very careful because I don't know who's watching, who's listening, how is it affecting them.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
this your story though. Like it's up to the person on how they going to interpret it, but it's your story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
how you
because you
gotta
don't
look
want to
at it.
limit it. Sometimes
Yeah.
Some
you
people
need
gotta hear
to
that
go
shit.
ahead and tell. Right. That's what I'm glad you said it because I was like, tell it.
Yeah, some people
Yeah.
You
gotta.
know what I'm
Some
saying?
people, the people that gotta hear it need. You know what I'm saying? You gotta because if you
Right.
shortcut it, you know what I'm saying? Like
They're
you
still
want
not
to.
gonna get it.
Or
Yeah,
people who follow me, I understand if my story is too much and it's too, you know what I mean? It's too raw and you can't take it and it brings up stuff for you. Like, I understand if you have to be like, hey, Savvy, I love you, but your story is like triggering my own emotions because I've gone through something similar and I need to take a step away. I thought I could handle it and I can't. I'm like, okay, sure. I understand that 100%. I get it. Don't sit there in my life thinking you have to support me and harm yourself, you know?
Mm.
that's the type of stuff. Like if y'all gonna do it again, y'all can do like videos leading up to it, talking about it, letting people know what it's gonna be about, and that's
Right.
where you can let people know like if you have these trigger warnings, this is what's going on. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like
Yeah.
Right. Or you could tell people like, if you've been abused as a child, X, Y, and Z, and this is a community you could tap in. That way they can have an option to come in. Like, you know what, let me listen in. Because not everybody is not bold enough or don't even know how to say it. Like my mom, I never knew she was sexually abused until I was like, maybe like almost 30 years old
Mhm.
when
Yep.
when she came out with it. And so
Yeah.
my mama didn't go for therapy at all. My
Right.
mama was like, well, I got God and I believe in all of that. And I was like, yes, ma'am. But this is where it was like, I think she was set in her ways to an old school because she
Right.
felt like, well, I'm not going to therapy because that equated to her to being crazy. You get what I'm saying? So
Right,
she didn't
right.
want to do that. So she continued for years. But it's like, Mom, I know you need to talk to somebody because you're telling me this, and I'm not
Yeah.
a, you know what I'm saying? I'm not equipped. I'm a child. I'm still a
Right,
kid. Like, even though I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, you're telling me you're getting sexually abused
right,
by this person and that person in the most craziest situations. And
right.
I'm being your child. I'm emotional because I want to protect you, but I can't because I don't even know where to start, you know? And so I
Yeah.
kept telling her, like, Mom, you need to go to a therapist. And then her pain just turned into the point where all of a sudden where it started to like manifest where now she started having schizophrenia. So now she mad at everybody. She think we trying to kill her, everybody trying to kill her. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Careful with the TikTok language. Yeah.
oh yeah, unalive. So she started going through issues where it was that, and it was really bad. Where now she don't have a relationship with her kids at all.
Yep. That's my mom too. Like my mom, she has so many broken relationships, and my one goal, the one thing I promised myself was, I don't want to be her. I don't want to
That's
be
how
her.
I
I
feel.
don't
I
want to
love my
turn
mom. I was
around
like, I can't
40
do it.
years from now and I haven't built any relationships. I've broken all friendships because when I said, like, when I shared this morning, when I said I was burning through friendships, yeah, because the addiction had taken a hold of me. I was burning
Hmm.
through long term, friendships and just, oh, I don't care. Let them go. Nah. Like, it had
No,
taken a
the bitterness
hold of
kicks
me.
in. My mom, she was cool with being bitter. She
Yes.
was like, It's me and Jesus," but it was starting.
Mhm.
It was taking a toll on her mind, but it was like, we want to be there for her. But it was sad because you have 6 kids and none of your kids want to be around you. My youngest sister is still around her, but my sister's starting to pick up on the same symptoms my mom have with the mental illness.
Mm.
So I'm like, I can't
Yep.
be around that because I don't even want that to trigger on my kids.
Right.
And so it was bad because my mom refused to go get help. Like I was taking her to the doctor and I'm telling them like, yeah, something wrong with my mom. And they're like, oh, well, it's like that when she gets, older age. But then I started explaining to them the symptoms and they were able to see it. But my mom knew how to, I hate to say this, I don't want to say act normal, but she knew how to, act right when she would get in front of people. But I'm like, no, my mom has issues. So she just refused to get the help and it started playing on her mind. And I was like, man, that's, it's sad. And then now she has early stages of dementia too.
Okay.
So now you don't even know who your kids are. I have to keep telling her like, no, Mom, I'm not so and so.
Yeah, my mom, she allowed her addiction and mental illness to deteriorate so bad to the point where I went no contact with her in 2014. So it's been 11 years that I've been no contact.
Mine's is being 2021. We went to go. I went to go see her. Well, I was about to. I was on my way. My daughter went to go see her, but my daughter came back mad. You know what I'm saying? Because she was just like, you know, she just seen how my sister was. And so she was just like, it's the same thing, when we went no contact the first time. It's the same issues, it's the same drama. My mom, she was still kind of the same person. Because my mom, I love her. But then she, her bitterness was eating up. So she just, she didn't like relationships. So she was breaking up all the relationships
Oh yeah.
within a family with her own kids.
Yep.
So if she was fine with all her kids at odds, she was okay. And
Yep.
so I was about to go see her, and then I seen what type of time my sister was on. I was like, yes or no, I'm doing better. Now I'm Gucci.
Yeah.
I'll keep you in prayer. But it's sad when you have to go no contact. But it was more sadder is that it's like I'm at peace though.
Yeah.
Right. I made a mistake and oops. Oh gosh darn it. Okay. I made a mistake like what was it, about 2 years ago. My mom came down with COVID and my sisters didn't even tell me she was in the hospital until she was like almost out of here. And the only thing that made them start telling me she was in the hospital is because I'm the oldest, right?
Yeah.
And so I know all my mom's medical history. And whatever they were doing to her in the hospital, it wasn't working. And it was getting worse and worse and worse. And so my one sister finally called me and she's like, I tried, so-and-so tried. We can't take it anymore. Do you know her medical history? Because the doctors were asking her for information because she was so far gone that she couldn't even speak on her own behalf. They had her on breathing. They had her on, intubation. Like it was a mess, right? They had to do emergency surgery on her. It was a total mess, and they finally called me, right? And then I learned that my mom's been in the hospital for almost 2 weeks and nobody even told me. And when I had to explain to my sisters is I went no contact, not because I was angry, because it was no longer safe. You guys don't understand that me going no contact does not mean I harbor any like ill will towards mom.
Resentment, right?
Right. I said if it becomes, a life or unalive situation, you need, I wish you guys had told me earlier. Because then what happened was of course, because there's such an age gap between me and my sisters. I was 11, almost 12 when the first one was born. And when the second one was born, I was 13. So there's over a 10-year age gap. So you got to understand there's a decade of life that they don't even realize my mom's medical history. They have no clue, right? Mm-mm. So as soon as I started talking to the doctors, come to find out they're giving her meds that she's allergic to. Sulfur drugs. She's allergic to anything with sulfur in it.
Me too.
Codeine, any kind of Demerol, anything like that, like all these medications, and she was not responding she had like some type of severe infection because she wasn't responding because the antibiotics had sulfur in them. I was like, oh my God, like,
right.
No wonder she like loopy and even crazier than she normally is. Like she was hallucinating, saying all kinds of crazy stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, she crazy, but she ain't that crazy. She ain't that crazy. Like, no. She hasn't quite slipped down the rainbow hole, not quite. So yeah, I told the doctor, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, no wonder she's like getting. And I said, look, and then they're like, oh my gosh, they're like, so then they had to like detox her. I was like, oh my gosh, and then my sisters were like, we didn't even know she had that type of surgery. We didn't even know she had that type of allergy. When did she have that miscarriage? What? She had that? I was like,
yeah, my mom, she kept a lot of stuff hidden too. My older sisters, they knew that we didn't know things because my mom had me when she was 40. All the rest of her kids, by the time I was born, I had a 19-year-old sibling, a 16-year-old, 15-year-old sibling, and a 14-year-old sibling. You get what I'm saying? So they knew different things about my mom that me and my younger sister didn't know. And they was like, mom is like this. I was like, well, that's not my mama. That's your mama. That's how she was. And sure enough, when things came out, I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess, shit, y'all know her longer than I did,
Right. Yeah, I was able to tell them certain things. And they're like, we had no idea. And I'm like, you guys weren't alive. You weren't born. Of course you wouldn't
you're
know.
right.
You weren't here yet. You either weren't here or too young. You know what I mean? If it happened and you were 5 years old, you're not gonna know that.
And at the time that your mom had you, she was a different woman and a different mother.
Correct.
You get what I'm saying? Compared to when she had them. And that was the biggest thing when we used to get into it, because it was like, I had the older parent, I had the older version, they had the younger version. So the things that they went through. But one thing we all had in common was that we all seen that it was some form of abuse. We just didn't know it was abuse because we were being taken care of. Does that make sense? Like the lights is on, we eating real good, we got clothes, we got this, that, and the third. So it's like, how can you tell that this is neglect? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's emotional neglect. You know what I mean? Yes. Like my knees are being mad, I'm eating, but it's like, Mom, you ain't took me shopping. You know what I'm saying? In some days. You get what I'm saying? Like, or some months. You know what I mean? Like I still got the same pants. I only got one pair of pants. Like, how you don't know that? You know what I'm saying? Like, different things like that. My mom didn't notice stuff until she started noticing that I started bringing in money. I ain't got no job.
Right.
I ain't got no job. Don't look at me like that. I'm saying I ain't got no job.
Where you getting money from? Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, she like, where you getting this money from? I'm like, would you want some? She like, yeah. So it's sad, but when you get older, you like, as an adult, you like, man, that was abuse. I was affected.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
When I finally was ready to deal with everything, I mean, just to sit there in that thought and realize I had two parents, not one, two. They both were living in the home. So I had a 2-parent household, something that a lot of little Black girls don't have, right?
Right.
2-parent household.
For Black people in general.
And I was still harmed.
That's me.
Still harmed.
I was shocked when you had mentioned that. I was like, wow.
And both college educated at that.
But it made sense when you were
Right.
talking about the religious, because it sounded like, this is me. I don't know, but this is what I was getting from, like, more like a cult that they were
Oh,
in. And so my mom was very
control.
super, super religious. She didn't have relationship, but she also grew up in a background in the South
Yep.
where they still kind of practice witchcraft. Does that make sense? They
Yeah.
still were into very much being superstitious. So
Yeah.
I really do feel like with her not getting help with the trauma at a young age, and then
Right.
my mom, when I say my mom and my dad, even though my daddy was around, but they was real big into superstition, baby. When
Yes.
her hand was to itch and she was like, I'm getting some money, you know, my mom. But it got to be a point where when I look back, that was a belief system. So it created a fear inside of her. And the only thing that would kind of balance her was religion. But it's not like my
Yeah.
mom's, you know, really like was in the Bible, in the word. She just knew, like, I'm gonna go to church. I'm gonna be on this. I'm gonna sing this. I'm gonna sing that. And so when it came down to like really living the word out and dissecting the word from herself and being a steward of the word, it was hard because my mom was more so of the association and affiliation of the institution of people at the church.
Correct.
Does that make sense? So it's
Right.
like you're going off what they're saying,
What they're saying, not really
man-made
what the scripture
versus
says.
what the
Yeah.
word exactly. And so
Yeah.
it was like, I think that worked on her mind, and then it worked on us because it was like, Mom, okay, you're listening to what they're telling you to do. And you know, when you come back from a religious background, because I was in a couple of churches that was very cultish, and you really have a fear, and it's more so too, they want you to fit in, but they kind of ostracize you. So the
Well, they
parents, when you come,
control you with fear. That's how they control
right,
you.
they can use the
God's
Bible,
gonna get
manipulate
you.
if they want to, and say that,
You're
well, this
going
is
to
what the word
hell.
says.
God's gonna
Yep.
get you. You'll lose all your blessings. How many times have we heard that one? You'll block all your blessings.
Well, I was told when I was pregnant at one church I was going to that, well, first it was like, okay, they found out I was pregnant, so I had to go before the church. Remind you, they'll use the scriptures to trip you up.
Oh,
Thank God,
yeah.
I know better because it was so many times they had used so many scriptures on me, baby. I started memorizing. I'm like, okay, just go to Ephesians, like, you know, because I was always in trouble. I was always doing something. You know, I was young, but then they were like, well, if you want to stay a part of the kingdom, meaning they try to say the kingdom of God, but really it's the church. Well, if you want to be a
Right.
part of the kingdom, then you have to stand before the church and you have to confess your sin. And then that's if you still want to be a part of it. If you don't want to do that, basically they were ostracizing, kicking me out. So then they were like, I'm laughing because but it was like fear because it was more so I'm thinking I'm going to hell. And my
Right.
sisters and them, they were like, Jamie, that's not what that means. But because I was so caught up in fear and I'm
Right.
young, I'm 18, I'm thinking I'm going to hell. They was like, Jamie, that's not what that means. And I'm like, well, I'm going to get kicked out of the kingdom and da this and da that. And I don't know what made me not like be a part of the church. I think it's because they was like, well, am I going to choose them or I'm going to stop having, you know, sex? And I was like, well, I love my baby daddy. That's what I was telling them.
Right?
Yeah, where my baby daddy at? Both of them.
18. Hold on. When that
Jamie
lady
Marie
said that to
said,
me,
"Hell
I was
it
like,
is.
I
I'm
love
on
my
my
baby
way."
daddy. I said, I love my, this is what I said to myself. I was like, oh, well, I can't, you know, I'll just, you know, but I was like, I love my baby daddy. I ain't going to finish stop. You know what I'm saying?
She said, hold my
And
drink. I ain't ready yet.
I'm not,
Okay.
but I knew something wasn't right. It
Yeah.
wasn't right. It took years for me to get it, but it really messed up my mind because I thought I was going to hell simply
Yeah.
because I wasn't a part of this institution. And it took a long time for me to really go to the scriptures. And the Lord was like, can't nobody pluck you out of the hand of God. And I was like, oh,
Right.
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 Oh, you know, so you're right. And in the church I went to, they didn't even read out of the Old Testament. It was all New Testament. But I wanted to be loved and accepted and belong, that I missed all of that. So I think that that's what a lot of people do. They want to belong. So you have a lot of parents that they get
Yes.
these churches and stuff like that, and they tell them this, that, and the third. But it's like they'd rather sacrifice their kids and their family to be a
Correct.
part of this association.
And with my mom, it was very much, she wanted to be a part of the it circle at
Oh, that was
church.
my mom. You got to
We
sit with the
wanted,
pastor. You got to be this, that, and the third. How your church had you want to be in the front row and you want to be a prophetess.
so for me to report that I was being harmed by one of the leaders and
Oh
the
my
leader's
gosh.
wife in their home, and their children were involved as well.
Oh, she wasn't gonna jeopardize that. You was a sacrifice.
I mean, they went into complete cover up, God will forgive you mode. What? God forgive me? I didn't do anything. Huh? Like, it's crazy because I look back and I tell my story sometimes and I'm like, dang, like I made it through all that. And then like even making it through my mom's mental illness. Hey Mina, my mom, I didn't even realize how mentally ill my mom was and how bad it was until I remember telling my therapist, I'm like, yeah, my mom used to tell me that the bird outside the kitchen window was talking to her, telling her to pray.
You know,
This is what I grew up in. My mom would tell us girls, there was 3 girls, right? Me and my 2 sisters. Oh, come on, girls. Do you hear that? It's the praying bird. He wants us to pray. Oh, something must really be in trouble. See, you hear it? It's saying pray, pray, pray.
okay,
This is what I
so
grew up in.
it's not funny, but I don't want to laugh. I'm only saying that because my mom, she had a thing with animals too. I don't know what was going on with her. Praise, just God bless her. But I remember my sister passed away. So this is where the superstition kicked in, and I finally had to tell because it was playing on our mental health too. Because when we dealt with this for so long, and I'm almost pushing 40, that I can't tell what's real and what's fake at this point as far as reality. Because I'm dealing with delusions too, but I'm going to go get help. But I'm like, this is all I know. But I remember one day my sister, she passed away. And my mama was outside on her little patio, and guess what comes visit her? This is how she talks, come visit me. So we looked outside, and it was, it was a little white pigeon, you know what I'm saying? And it wouldn't leave. It was just with her the whole time. It stayed out there. It would not leave. It didn't fly off. It just was there. It had to be about an hour that she was just out there cleaning, gardening, doing her little thing. My son was outside, but I already knew what time it was because I was like, see, she finna start. She about to start. And so I'm in the kitchen, and she come in there, and she was like, yeah, the dove that came to visit me and that bird and stuff. And I just looked at her, and she was like, that's your sister. I said, you better not. I mean, I got livid in there. I said, you better not say that that's my sister that came and visit us. Well, why would the bird be? And when I looked in my mom's eyes, I think that was the first time that I was able to see the illness for what it was. Separate her from being, this is my mom, like, okay, this is something wrong. And this is deeper than that. And she really believed, like, that was my sister that came and visit her. And I was like, Mama, no, that's not Jennifer. Jennifer's gone. Like, that's not her. And so for people who believe in that type of stuff, I was like, Mama, I'm sorry. We don't believe in reincarnation. And I'm like, that's, and I understand people was like, she was grieving, but I'm like, my mama been like this for a long time. Even when my niece had passed away, she would see a hummingbird. She was like, there goes Sharnika right there. There goes Sharnika for years.
She would say any type of bird or animal or squirrel, they were all telling her that somebody was going to pass, somebody needs prayer. She literally thought that these animals were speaking to her and they were sent from God. I kid you not.
And so my mom, that's when it started coming into, it was the schizophrenia. And my mom has schizophrenia. And so my brothers and sisters, they don't like talking about it. But, I go to therapy and I'm around kids. I don't know how God put me in this situation, but he did. I'm around kids who have behaviors and they have stuff like that. So he allowed me to start being around children who had it, to see that it starts so early in families and all that other stuff. And I started being educated, and I was like, oh, wow, how much mental illness is for children, but how it is for black people, because we don't really want to go get help.
No.
Or we don't know the resources, or we just like.
Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to cover it up, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah. Because it's scary. It's a little scary because, like when you say that she saw the bird, and it's like spirituality. It becomes spiritual psychosis when you try to force other people to see what you see. But it's actually a good thing if you could just acknowledge it and hold it on to yourself. Just acknowledge it and it's like what do they call it? It's an A word, ascension. Because maybe it was. It just maybe wasn't meant for you to be told that and you to believe it. And it was just meant for her, you know?
Listen,
It's
no,
hard, yo, when
it's
people
an
believe in
illness.
something.
That's a mental illness. I'm sorry. I mean, I know what
It
people
can be
believe
a
in and
mental
stuff like
illness.
that,
It's a
but
thin
It
line.
may be, but belief is the strongest feeling. You know what I'm saying?
It's a
Once you
thin
believe
line.
in
I can't
something,
say it is or it isn't. You're right.
like that shit, it's hard. If you really believe in something, it's hard for somebody to deter you from what you believe
Yeah.
Yeah.
in.
It's kind of like when I share the amount of nonsense and just mental gymnastics that my mom would do as a child. It's like sometimes I don't even say anything because I'm like, people gonna think you crazy too. Because it's like if I repeat all the crazy stuff that she has told me, like dogs would talk to her, cats, like any type of animal was always talking to her. And it's like
I
I
mean,
didn't even realize it wasn't normal until I was like almost 40 years old. Legit.
Jamie said, ain't no way. Ain't no
yeah,
way.
I'm just see, this the thing, right? I'm not saying I don't believe that your sister came back as a bird. I just know how that belief is. Like I used to argue with people in the church. You know what I'm saying? I used to be like, what if you found out that everything that was in the Bible was a lie, but you still believe?
Hmm. Great.
You know what I'm saying? But that was, it's not to stir up nothing. It's just to say that you know what I'm saying? Like, what if?
Right.
yeah, but my mom background was witchcraft. You know what I'm saying? So she'll tell you all type of stuff like that and, different beliefs. So I was just like, okay, this is where this is all starting to, play in because after a while, my mom became further away from even, talking about God, reading her Bible, reading her word, everything. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a mess. Like some things I had to show my therapist because she was like, oh yeah, you could tell that this is mental illness, just like from the isolation,
Yeah.
Right.
her room. My mom would just
Yes. The clutter.
she would make these crosses out of aluminum foil and she would have like 20 of them and she would put a piles from the door all the way to her room. And it was a trail and she would say, I'm keeping the demons out and stuff like that and whatever. And my mom
Mine
stopped
was
going to the
just
doctor. She stopped going to the hospital because she was like, I'm like, so you stopped going to your primary caregiver? I'm like, but you almost 80 something years old. Yeah, because my mom was dealing with paranoia.
yeah.
So every time she thought that somebody was watching her, where I knew it was a mess, because I'm like, don't none of us believe that no more. And I think it's because me and my sister used to believe it because we was young. And I started telling my mama, like, I don't want to hear it. Don't tell my kids it. I don't want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? And then it was like we were enemy number one. So I was just, that's when the no contact started coming because I'm like, my kids I would leave and my daughter would tell me, and her and my mama was so close. And my daughter would be like, my granny, my best friend. She used to make sure she tell me that, like, you ain't my best friend. My granny, my best friend. And it hurt my daughter when she called me. She was like, Mom, I don't know what's going on with your mama. But she was like, she came in the room and talking about if I ever think that you trying to harm me, you could forget that I'm your grandma.
Oh no.
So
Oh,
that's what my daughter was just like,
sorry.
um,
Oh
and
yeah.
she was
That's
just
what I'm
like,
trying to have to
yeah.
just explain to them. That's not grandma talking. That's the mental illness talking.
Yeah, that
They
shit.
know now. They know now.
Yeah.
But it was still harmful because we were like, Mom, you don't want to get help though. So I think that was more harmful for us because it was like, I get it. I could see when it's the trauma. I could see when it's the disability. But what I tell them at my job is that with some people, you could tell like, this is a behavior. This is a choice. And so where you have gotten to a point where you can learn how to play the victim mode and be the villain, I'm like, well, you know what, Mom, I can't help you in that regard, but I know what I can do. I'm just going to have to leave. And that's when I did no contact.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
I went no contact behind my son. She started harming my son, and that's when I pumped the brakes.
Yeah.
right. Because my kids would be like, Mom, I don't feel safe. Every time you leave to go to work, because we were living with her before we moved into my apartment before I got ready. And they was like, my son was like, Mama, every time you leave, she's always messing with me. She was always bothering me. She come in there harassing me. And he was like, Mama, I don't like it. And that was the first time where I had to take a stance where I was like, Jamie, the same way you didn't like the way your mom was putting you in situations because of her living situations and needed somebody to, watch the kids and watch you, whatever, while you went to work, and you didn't like it because you were harmed, even though it may not be sexual abuse. But
Right.
if it's verbal and physical abuse,
Yep.
you do not need to have your child there
Yep.
with them, because now you're continuing the abuse, and this time it's
Yep,
on
the
your
cycle
hands.
continues.
And I moved out, and she couldn't believe it, because I have always been a one where I was unstable. My family is shocked because they were like, shit, we ain't heard from Jamie. Oh yeah, I'm doing real good. You know what I'm saying? So they were shocked, but
Yep.
the codependency, I was so stuck on the codependency that her fears became my fears. So I was
Yeah.
afraid that I couldn't leave. So by me going no contact, I was like, oh, I could do this.
Yeah.
And it was better for me and my family.
I still remember the day that my mom crossed that line because she had agreed. She had wanted to take my son out for the day with the other two grandchildren. So it was my son and his two younger cousins. And my son was about 9 years old, right? And we're living in Southern California, right? And I was in an apartment, and she was like, "Oh, I want to take the grandkids out to have a grandma day." I was like, "Okay, fine." Now my son at that point had been diagnosed. He had autism, ADHD stuff going on. So I was like, "Okay." I'm like, "But if you take him, no, you're fine, Jamie. Of course, you're okay." She took him out for the day with the other two grandchildren, and whatever happened, she didn't apply any of the skills that I had tried to tell her. Like, look, if this happens, you need to talk to him like this. If this happens, he needs to go this way because that's the only way he's going to respond. So, of course, it went south. Now, I'm not sure if you guys, apartment complexes, especially the older ones, they're deep. They can go way back, right? Mm-hmm. So a curb from where my apartment is and the curb, right, the outside, and it was a gated apartment complex at that, right, where you had to go through a security gate to get in. It was quite a distance for a 9-year-old, right? So I'm thinking that he's with her, and all of a sudden, and thank God, thank you, Jesus, I had stayed home and I hadn't left for the day, right? Because I could have not been there because I'm thinking my child is with my mom, right? So it very well might have been that I didn't stay home, that I went, and had fun for the day, right? But it just so happened that I was like, no, I need to clean stuff out. The kid's not here, so I'll get stuff done around the house. All of a sudden, my husband, because I was still married at the time, he goes, babe, he goes, isn't that, he used my son's name, isn't that him crying? And I go, no, he's with my mom. And he goes, yeah, he goes, I hear someone crying. And all of a sudden I hear this child crying. I mean, and it's a vicious cry. It's the type of cry where this child's in trouble. I mean, any person, any man, woman would know this is a child in trouble, right? Like bad crying, right? Yeah. And I mean, just screaming. And I'm like, oh my God, my son had been dumped outside the apartment complex. Yeah. No phone call from my mom. We have cell phones, right? No phone call, nothing. Just dumped him. And what he brokenly told me in between crying is that grandma told me that I can't go with my cousins because I don't know how to act and I need to go home with my mom and I could never see her again. That's what she told a 9-year-old.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Whoa.
When it started getting bad like that, because their lines is blurred, and then after that, if they're not dealing with their own trauma, their own issues and things like that, it builds up.
How do you
start taking it out on the kids?
How do you dump a gated apartment? Y'all, it's a gated apartment complex. It's not like you could get in. He's 9 on a public street, 9.
And don't feel nothing.
Didn't even call me and be like, I'm bringing him back home. Nothing. Just get out of my car and took off. Left. Didn't even see if he made it inside safely. Nothing. Nothing. And let me tell y'all something. The claws came out that day. My mom claws came out so hard. Yes, I was not nice. Yes, I cussed up a storm. And I told her, I said, the buck stops here. I said, you might have ruined my life and caused irreparable damage. I said, but I don't care if you touch my child. I told her, I said, you will never see your grandson again. Ever you will never see him again. And I meant it, and she never did. Because I swore. You
That's how I
helped
knew
me be
something was
done.
going on with my mom,
Be
because if
done.
she was tripping, and I'm talking about, she used to have some moments where I'd be like, oh, for real? That's what we doing? I say, you know what, mom, you ain't got to worry about it. I said, for real, because if I would tell her, and everybody knew she loved her grandbabies, but I was like, mom, if this is how you feel, I ain't got to come over there.
Yeah.
And that was real. I was like, you ain't got to see whoop-de wop, whoop-de wop, whoop-de wop. I don't want to say my kids' names. And then she'll snap out of it. But when she started coming to me, and the kids was telling me like, nah, she cussing us out. I'm about, we ain't her grandkids.
Yeah.
But my mom, I knew something was up, and I was trying to get my brothers and sisters to
Acknowledge it.
help me. Girl, they was tired. They was already tired of,
Yep.
because they were like, I guess it was more so, this ain't nothing new for us. But see,
Right.
my brother, and one thing about our family, black families, they don't like to talk about nothing. So I'm finding out stuff as we're going.
Yep.
It was so much hidden stuff, especially with my brothers and sisters, and they keep everything quiet, and my mama's like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew like she had these issues when she was younger. But I'm like, look, check this out. She getting older now. It's some new stuff. It's times 20. You get what I'm saying? We got to put all this, because they had a lot of unforgiveness, and that's where the foundation was. She did this, she did that, she did this, and she did that, da 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 da. They didn't heal from it. They didn't want to. She didn't want to. Everybody was just tripping. But I'm like, look, check this out.
Yep.
The doctors are concerned. The
Yeah.
only reason why they ain't putting her nowhere is because she know how to put her clothes on and match it real nice. Because my mama didn't play. She mental illness or not, she was gonna match her clothes up, look nice. You know what I'm saying? And dress up. So they was like, they don't see nothing wrong, but they know something is not right. But I'm like, these are the things that's happening in this house at home. Bro, they didn't respond to her. They didn't come see if she was okay. No, nothing. So I tried to, put all the stuff, aside, what was going on with my mama. But then when it's like,
Well, did you find that as she started aging, you started thinking, okay, is this dementia, Alzheimer's, or is it mental illness? You know what I mean? Because that's where we're at right
so
now.
I took her to the therapist, right? Because I was off and on, going doing my thing. Because I had my kids. I had moved to Arizona, so my younger sister was taking care of her. So my younger sister called us, because my younger sister, she loved the mess out of her. She like, this my mama. That's how she really be acting, like, this my mama.
Right.
But she called me one day, and she was like, and she don't have no kids, so she was like, I can't do it no more. She was like, I need help. She was like, I think she got dementia. But this was like early stages. When my mama took a test, and they said she didn't have it, right? So it was like, okay, whatever. And then I moved back, and I'm living with my mom. So I'm telling the doctor, like, something wrong with my mama, boom, bam, bing. The lady trying to tell me, oh, it's older age. I said, no. I said, my mom has all her food wrapped up in plastic bags because she thinks somebody trying to poison her.
Wow.
In the freezer too. I said, so, okay, well, we'll go ahead. We'll send to a therapist. I'll come up in there thinking, dun, 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 about to save the day, girl. I'm taking my mom, my driver. I'm thinking like, oh, we breaking generational curses. We about to have her go do therapy. All this other stuff. We get up in there. I'm talking and letting the lady know this is what my mom is dealing with. Da, 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 da. X, Y, and Z. And the lady was like, she looking at me. She was like, that's real nice. She was like, but unfortunately, your mama's already been here. I said, huh?
Wow.
She was like, I didn't put two and two together when the lady asked my mom, is this your daughter? So-and-so.
Oh, no.
She was talking about my sister, because my sister had been there. I was just like, oh, maybe she know me. I ain't put two and two together because my sister had been her caretaker. And so when I got there, the lady was like, I can't make your mom. That's when you start understanding laws, and they got rights, even as being seniors. You know what I'm saying? And they was like, well, your mom's been here before. And unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do, because Miss Johnson does not want to take the medication. My mama, I'm not crazy. It ain't nothing wrong with me. God brought me here, and X, Y, and Z. And when she started doing that speech, that Martin Luther King speech, I said, it's okay. Yeah. And she was adamant. She will not take her meds. And so then when I did not no contact, finally, I stayed with her during COVID and everything. And then when COVID died down, 2021, towards the end, she started tripping again. So it would like come and go, in waves. Cause she would be real nice, real sweet. She loved her grandbaby. She loved her kids. Everything is cool. Then after that, it just started getting like, okay, this behavior is starting to be a little bit more aggressive, Yep. And then I end up moving, because now I'm like, ain't no way I'm gonna be sitting over here being abused by no. I ain't got no place to stay, and I don't want to be homeless. But I'm like, ain't no way I could sit here and keep living like this because now my mom is really talking to me like, indirectly like, shit, you need me. Like you can
Right.
get out of my house. Like, and it was stuff like that, like being threatened, like you can get out of my house. You ain't your kids, or whatever. So I went no contact. I was 2021. My daughter decided she was gonna be a good old grandbaby, and she was like, "Mama, I'm gonna go see my granny." So she go last year to go see her for her birthday, right? Mom moved. She get down there and stuff like that. She go in the house. My sister taking care of her. And as my daughter's talking to her, girl, she don't even really know who my child is. My daughter was like, she know who I am, but she was like, Mom, I had to keep repeating myself over and over and reminding her.
Yeah.
And my daughter was so mad because she was like, my sister was taking care of her, but my sister is the type where she don't like, there's something wrong with my sister too, being around her, the mental illness. And so my sister my mom don't have any medication for dementia. I said, but look around the house. So now I'm on the phone. I got an attitude, right? Where they got cameras, everything. I guess they got a Ring camera, all type of stuff. My sister leave when my daughter come over for whatever reason. And make a long story short, my daughter was like, I think she got a Ring camera because whatever's going on, she could see it from the house. And she was like, my granny keep telling me, granny is over here walking around here hyperventilating because she afraid because she don't want me to be over here and I'm her grandbaby. So then things start getting interesting. I said, oh, really? Because, I used to be the fighter in the family, one of them. And I'm like, nah, I'm mad. Because I'm like, what you mean? I said, okay, now I'm upset. Because I'm like, she like, yeah, the phone keep ringing and stuff like that. And she said, I think Auntie is mad because I'm going through, because I had my daughter to go through the medicine cabinets. Girl, it ain't no medication for dementia. It ain't no paperwork, no nothing. I said, check that mail. I said, check the mail and see. I was like, see what's going on, because I hadn't spoke to my mama. But now I'm like, okay, well, hold on. I could put my grievances aside. It's still my mama. So then she was like, no, she got all this holistic medication. That's how my sister is. All these supplements. I'm nutting up over here. So I'm on a whole nother location, pissed off, mad, right? Because I'm like, what you mean? Supplications? I guess my sister can
That's not
see.
correct because
Right.
because I had to so my grandma back in it's been 6 years. 6 years ago, my grandma had a major stroke. And it just brought on everything. And so after she had the stroke, I had her tested out at the memory clinic at Kaiser. And yeah, it came back that she had dementia. But thank God, my grandma had already assigned me as power of attorney, even before she became sick.
Right.
So
My sister wasn't even power of attorney. I kept saying, is she power of attorney?
The good thing is that I had power of attorney. So when she did fall sick, the thing is, when you do power of attorney, you have to have medical and financial. It's both. They're different. One is medical,
Right.
one's financial. There's two different power of attorneys you got to have. And so I thankfully could just easily step right in. I just went to all the banks, you know what I mean, and everything, and all her medications and everything. I just, you know what I mean? It was so seamless and easy for me to step in. But the good thing about my grandma, when they got her diagnosed, she acted up at the appointment. Thank you, Lord. And then they declared her. I got the letter of incompetency right then and there because she flipped off with the nurse. The nurse was like, oh, let me help you with your, her sweater was falling on her arm. And the nurse reached oh, here, let me help you with, damn it, get your hands off me. I was like, and the nurse looked at me I was like.
Mary Johnson knew how to behave because she was one that kept it under cover, because when she was younger and she was a child, she said her grandmother always saying that she was going to be in an infirmary. So that was her thing when she was being abused. So her thing is that she didn't want to be crazy. So Mary Johnson, we call her Mary Johnson when she get to tripping. We don't call her mom. We be like, Mary Johnson in there tripping. And so she, my mom knew how to get in front of people and perform so well that,
mine
which
lost
is
in
kind
front
of
the nurse and the doctors. I was like, well, that was easy. I didn't have to do nothing.
Because you got to think too, and it made me really start thinking about what type of personality she had, because I was like, shit, I ain't even know there was no wrong to her until I was like late 30s. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she knew how to conduct herself. And after a while, a while, it started taking over. And so I'm on the phone like, ask Granny, is she power of attorney? Because now I'm talking smart. Like, I could be ghetto, but I could be hood, and I'm educated too at the same time. I'm
Right.
like, is she power of attorney? Check that mail. Check to see if Granny can get approved for IHSS, in-home supportive
Yeah.
service. See what's going on. Now, my daughter's telling me, Mama, the phone ringing off the hook. Boom, boom, boom. She can't, now my mama hyperventilated because she afraid that my sister is not going to take care of her because she talking to me. That's what pissed me off. But my mama created that scenario like that throughout all her kids. So I was like, hold on, Jamie. Now this is where your piece comes in at, because
Right.
if you go over there and shutting down, you knocking stuff over, then it's gonna be like,
Yeah.
you're the aggressor, da 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 da, because they don't. And so I was like, you know what? So I told my daughter, I said, look,
Mhm.
just leave, because now my baby mad, and my baby's over there crying and stuff like that because
Right.
she want to help her granny, but then her granny still is afraid to say something because my sister is over there tripping, and it was just a weird scenario. And then when I was like, my mom kept saying, well, can you come over? I haven't seen you, and da 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 da. I was gonna go over there and go see her. I called. I kid you not. She was back on us because she go in and out different personalities. Then she
Oh,
was
yeah,
like,
you do.
my mom was like, oh yeah, yeah, first she was talking like she was lost. Then when I called her, but my sister was back there in the background, I could tell. She was like, oh yeah, um, well, I can't have nobody coming over. I said, excuse me, what you mean? She was like, I can't have nobody coming over because my Jamaica saying that you gotta have a prescription. The doctor said that she can't have people coming up over there. I said, a prescription to telling you that you can't have nobody coming over. I said, are you kidding me? I said, so y'all think I'm dumb? Who has a verbal prescription to say you can't come see your kids?
Right.
But the way that my sister was talking and my mom was talking, I was like, it's the same scenario, because that's how I was back in the day. Because you got to think, my sister ain't got no kids. All her other kids got kids. They either married, they up and gone. My sister don't. She could keep my sister around. You get what I'm saying? And so I was just like, the codependency. You know what I mean? With me, it was like I was worried about I would be gone. My sister gonna stay there. So I was like, Jamie, there you go. You're going backwards. You've been on therapy for how long? Don't do it. And
Let it go. Let it go.
I just was like, I had to, when I tell you I had to let it go, because my sister, now my daughter crying. She crying. Big old 20-year-old at this time crying. And so my tears, I stopped crying. I got to a point, you guys, where I could no longer cry. I was always mad. Like when I say mad, my tears turned into anger for years. And it was so embarrassing because I would be like, I can't control it. I'm shaking. And so I was like, to the point where I couldn't even pray no more, because I was past that. Like, he can't save me. He ain't protect me. When I was a kid, girl, I would be wilding, So I was like, okay, I need to go to my therapy. So I was like, I can't do it because look at how I am, and my kids are seeing me this way. So I was like, this is why people go no contact, because stuff like that is a trigger, and wherever your progress are, you can go backwards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
20 years back, you're like, I thought I was past all this.
right, girl, and for real, you trying to figure out what the heck wrong with you just because you had one conversation. And remind you, I didn't even see my mom in person. I just was on the phone with her, and the whole time my daughter was on the phone going back and forth. And now I'm getting triggered because my daughter's like, Mom, I don't think Granny being taken care of right. She was like, it ain't no medication. And then I guess my mom was telling me that my sister was like, the reason why can't nobody come over because they don't know the intentions and what they trying to do to her. That's when I flipped, and the Holy Spirit was like, just don't go. Because I was like, I know she don't think we want some money, but my problem is that I don't know how to talk with my family because of the abuse. I've been told to be quiet for so long that now I still to this day don't know how to speak, but I know how to fight. You get what I'm saying? So that's how I get to talking. And I'm like, I'm knocking everything, literally, I'm knocking everything over. House be towed up, But I'm like,
I just had to leave. You know what? I said, you know what? God can handle my mom far better than I ever will.
And
So
you're right.
Her in his hands, and I'm gonna place my whole family in his hands, and I'm gonna let it be. And whatever is supposed to happen, gonna happen. And I'm just gonna walk away and leave this alone. And that's what I've done. You better go in there.
And you can see how your life has progressed, because I said, Jamie, it's sad, but I said, God, I love her. You got to remember, some days I'll be sitting up here crying because I'll be a little girl in here, like on Mother's Day. I was like, I can't even call. I tried to call my mama. She didn't answer the phone. So then I was like, I said, you know what? Let me go ahead. Maybe I'm tripping, because I'm like, girl, I'm in the store. I'm in a grocery store crying because I walked in the store and I see nothing but balloons and cards. I hadn't been tripping these 4 years. I did no contact. I said, I'm a G. I got it. You feel me? I walked in the store while this 40-year-old, she in a diaper aisle crying. You get what I'm saying? So I try to call my mama like, girl, the first time it kept ringing. I said, okay, I got to remember she older. My mama still got a flip phone, you guys. So I said, let me bear with her.
Yeah.
So she would have issues with the phone. We used to have to tell her, Mom, your phone is not tapped. You got an old phone. You feel me? So I tried to be positive, like, okay. Then I called again. So you know how when you call the first time, then it's like you could call again. You could tell somebody just hung up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first 2 rings, I said, okay, Jamie, you tripping. Don't get mad. I called again.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, I'm crying so hard. I'm crying so hard, pacing around in circles because the little girl in me want to talk to her mom, but her mama don't want to talk to her. And that's all she knows from her both her parents is that in my mind, y'all don't love me because it's abandonment. So I'm walking around in circles. I forgot now what I'm supposed to be buying. Then I go call my daughter because the problem is that now I realize that I'm doing the same thing my mom did with my kids. I'm dumping my issues on my daughter and she at work. I can't control myself. So I call my daughter when she at work like, I'm so sorry. This is what happened. You know what I'm saying? And I had to call my child for me to calm down because girl was hyperventilating in the car. And that's when I was like, Jamie, you got to let it go.
You do. You have to let it go. And I know my sister had called me a couple of years back after my mom had her bad health episode. And when I said I made that mistake is because I mistakenly thought I could let her back in my life. Until one day we were on the phone talking, right? I mistakenly started talking to her again after this bad COVID and all that episode, right? And I was like, fine, whatever. We're talking and she's like, you want to know why I was harder on you than your sisters? And I'm like, no. And she's like, I was harder on you because she's like, I knew you could take it. I knew you were the strong one. That's why. So hold up a second. So you're telling me you were intentionally cruel to me because it wasn't just hard on me. The type of parent she was to me was not the type of parent she was to my sister. So now I've gotten an admission that you were intentionally cruel and mean to me because I could take it. Do you know how sick that is? Are you for real? Like I said, when she said it, I said, do you have any idea what you just admitted to? You just told your daughter that you did all that messed up crap to her on purpose.
Right.
Because she could take it. And I knew you were the strong one.
And it's sad.
Let me tell you something. I said, I wasn't your strong one. I said, in fact, I'm still in therapy because of everything you did.
Man, that's painful. Because it's painful because when you have that big old age gap, you can see that how you got treated as the oldest compared to the youngest. And I think that's what the issue used to be with my brothers and sisters. And we would have a rift all the time is because they would just be like, mama wasn't like that back in the day.
Well, my mom...
You got to think my mama was older, so she was a more lenient, more different mother. She in church, she just done the third. It was like, that ain't the same Mary Johnson we know. You know what I'm saying? So I think it causes the clash.
I don't really understand my mom's viewpoint of me, honestly, at all to this day. I really don't understand it because if I tell you how my mom treated me as a child, outside of the continued trauma and everything that she contributed to, it's like I swear I question. Like people have literally asked me, "Were you adopted?" If it wasn't for DNA being foolproof that I know for sure that I am 100% her child, because legit, if I show a picture of me and my mom, you'd be like, y'all twins. There ain't no way you was adopted, honey. Because I am her dead on twin. Like it looked like my daddy didn't have nothing to do with it. Like legit, you would mistake us. We look so much alike. Like people literally have been like, oh, hey, and saying hi to her, not realizing it's me. I'm like, yeah, no, I definitely was not adopted, and my daddy and everybody was there, so no,
Yeah.
I promise you. But the way she has treated me my entire life was as if she hates me.
So
Legit, it's weird.
my
The
mom,
parent that my sisters got to experience is not the parent that I got at all.
so my
Not at
mama was cool, right? And we didn't think I used to be like, y'all tripping. Y'all ain't talking about my mama because we used to get into it. Like, y'all ain't talking about my mama. And remind you, we all loved her. But I was like, y'all ain't talking about my mama. And then one day, it's sad because when I look back, I was like,
all.
damn.
Yeah.
It's when I turned 18 is when my mom started acting different. I'm
Yeah.
18 now. So then I'm like, okay. And then I look back and I'm like, she started treating me the same way as my brothers and sisters.
Treating them. Yep.
She was not too much like that on my youngest sister because she the baby of 6.
Yeah.
But then you start paying attention to how like I'm like, dang, I look at my mom and the way she is when she was around my brothers and sisters. I noticed that, especially with my older sister, she would be more like trying to get them to like her because of what she did when she was younger. You get what I'm saying? So when they were younger. And so I'm looking
Yeah.
at her like it seemed like whatever my sister said, that's what she did and she would fit in. Or if she wouldn't hold my brothers accountable, she wouldn't, discipline them or nothing like that. So I'm like, oh, so this is how you get down. You know what I'm saying? And the
Yeah.
thing is that I had to get to a place where I'm like, I'm not perfect in my motherhood. So I look back at certain things that I've done. And so I'm like, okay, learned behavior. The problem that I had with my mom that was so painful, and this is where I was like, Jamie, you have to forgive. And this is where the important part of letting go is my mama never said sorry. When I say she was them old school ones, I was like, I did the best that I could.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel that I've offended you,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm sorry. She was real big on she not gonna say sorry. My mama
Right.
would just buy you something. And as I
Right.
got older, I was like, Mom, like, I don't want none of that. And my dad, I'm just like, why y'all can't just say y'all sorry and y'all wrong? You know what I'm saying?
They
Like,
don't have it. They
why you
don't
gotta
have the
go?
tools.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you
Pride,
going?
No
pride
tools
come
to
before the
fight it.
fall. You know what I'm saying?
I'm like, why y'all going no contact? You not talking to me, you the parent. Like, I
Yeah.
don't get it. Like, you mad at me for what? And then, so that's when it started. It started 20 years ago. And then it
Yeah.
just got worse and worse the more she didn't go. That's why I be telling people like, if you know you need therapy, do when you ready, but just don't let that stuff marinate. Cause I was like, it don't get better, it gets worse as you age. And I think the trauma that my brothers and sister went through, it got worse. And I was just like, Jamie, I said, that's how you gonna be if you don't put a stop to it or at least address what you went through. And that's where we at now. But my mom, she had a thing where she started saying first it was my sister, started doing witchcraft on her. She used to call me and my little sister. She was like, I think your sister Jennifer, she doing witchcraft on me. Then after that, she called me again. She was like, I think Portia doing it. And she was like, I think um Curtis doing it. She wouldn't say Bob because everybody got their little picks and their favorite kids, right? And plus my brother, he's born on the same day as her. So she wouldn't say him. And then the next thing you know, she wouldn't say it was me. But girl, she started saying that he was 10 at the time. She was like, she said her grandson, which is my son, she said, he doing witchcraft on me.
Yeah.
She used to look at me and she was like, you see this right here? My baby was doing a science project at the house. She said, this right here is a grave he was making. Girl, and I didn't understand mental illness. So girl, I'm nutting up like, what you mean? You know what I mean? I didn't understand mental illness. You talking to somebody that's mentally ill, girl, they ain't comprehending what you saying like that.
No.
And then when I started noticing that now she was going through all her kids, her grandbabies and stuff, and I was just like, I got to get the hell up out of here.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I just like I said, I just placed her into the hands of a loving God, and I said, you know what? She was your child before she was anybody else's. Before she was my mom, she was your child. So you're gonna have to help her on this one because I ain't got what it takes. I told the Lord. I said I definitely ain't the one. I said I hope her other two kids is gonna help her because it ain't gonna be me.
Yeah, because
I'm definitely
that was my
not.
thing. I wanted to help my mom, so I felt like I was at peace. And then when my mom had her little episode and she was like, oh, it's time for y'all to go and leave. You know what? God was so good because I wasn't even disrespectful. I had been on this thing where I always was cussing people out. We was getting into it. That's just part of my response to things. So even with my brothers and sisters, I didn't have no. It's funny because I feel like God, He set it up like this because it was weird. I wouldn't leave them because it was toxic. That was my family, and then it got to a place where when my sister passed away, it brought everybody together. Girl, everybody was still on, they like to argue and cause division. So, my last little interactions I had, everything was fine. We wasn't in no negative mood. We didn't argue, we didn't fight. My mom, I was respectful. I didn't disrespect her. I was hurt though, because she
Right.
was like, you got to get up out of here. I get it. I'm not on your lease, but it was more
Right.
so like,
I'm not on your list of favorites.
yeah, so I was living with her, but I wasn't on her lease. And they found out, girl, she was living in a senior apartments. Girl, girl, it's nothing but seniors, girl. We all in there young, on her lease. So when they found out that, it was like, you got to go, you know what I'm saying? Because it's in a senior apartment. You guys are not seniors,
Right.
okay?
Right.
And that was fine and all. But the way that my mama was going about it, girl, it was like, my mama was more so, it wasn't like, baby, I'm sorry, I get it, and you gotta leave. And I get it, because I'm like, I ain't gonna try to jeopardize it. Girl, I could tell you my mama was happy. You know why? Because it was like, and this was so painful for me to digest, you ain't got no place to go. It was like when a person becomes so bitter, they get happy because it was like, you homeless. Where you gonna be at? You gonna be on the streets? And so I knew she was happy for me to leave. My mom didn't even ask me where I was going. She didn't ask me where I was gonna go, where I was gonna stay at, where I was gonna be at. But shit, if you don't want to talk to me, because she wasn't even talking to her grandkids. And I had to tell my mom, like, Mom, I already got her storage is full. I only had one bag. Girl, I put everything in my Impala that I could. And I was like, Mom, I only got one bag. I'm gonna come back and get it. And I can't get it right now, but can I leave it here? Girl, she was like, girl had an attitude, was mad, and I left that stuff there. I was like, oh, this. So I didn't disrespect her. Grabbed my stuff up out the house, whatever, and everything. I was like, and she was like, if I tried to be the best mother I could. I just was like, Mama, it's all right. You can say the speech. I said I love her, but I was like, Mama, because I know. I said, Mama, you ain't mad that I'm leaving. I said, you happy, and I was like, it's okay. And so I left, girl, by the grace of God. That was only God. I got into a brand new apartment within 3 weeks. Girl, homeless for only 3 weeks.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, everything was a miracle. Like, girl, money set aside, everything for the motel, all that food, all that other stuff. Girl, that was just all God I needed to leave. God needed me to put faith in Him and trust Him that I was gonna provide and not rely on that. Once I said, okay, God, it was like I went homeless and God called my name for the apartment that I was on. I was on a waiting list. Girl, they pulled my name and everything and was like, okay, come down here. Credit check, boom, everything went through. That was God. Girl, I had, look, 2 evictions. How you get approved? You can't say my God ain't good.
Sometimes, like, he got to get you out of one situation to get you into another because he
And
knows.
he needed me to trust him, and I put my trust because I was just fear was kicking
You would
in.
never leave on your own. He knew that.
And girl, I couldn't
He had
believe
to
that I
shove
did
you
it.
out the door to
And I
get
couldn't
you to
believe it.
go.
I couldn't believe it. I've been on my own, like no contact, but I was so codependent. You don't even be knowing that you codependent. I was so codependent, girl. It was crazy. And I left my mom, but I feel like with me leaving, God knew that it was better for me to leave so I could better understand her and get to a place of healing and, forgiveness. Because now I look at her differently, and then I'm getting older. I'm a woman with older kids now, so now I see things differently. Because I'm like, oh shit, I don't think she was the problem. It was me, But to do the healing that was necessary, and then get to a place where I can still love her,
Right.
and be on a different page than what I was, because I was like, oh, she a op. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what Satan wanted for me to be, to still have that bitterness and that anger. And I was like, you know what, Jamie, how you gonna heal if you acting like this? You gonna do the same thing to your kids that you've been doing.
I just think with my mom, I think it's sad because like she's missing out on so many things. Like she's missing out on relationships. She's missing out on, the good times that you could have had you
How old is
chosen.
she?
She'll be 73 next month.
Yeah, and that's how I feel with my mom. I'm like, Mom, you lived a long life, 81 years old, and you were just like, you don't have no friends. And I think that's